I never thought it would be like this.
What did you think it was gonna be like?
I just thought it was gonna be something simple that was gonna end up like an after-school special or something. But it really has taken off in a direction that I really hope that this helps a lot of people.
Let's give a microphone to Ted in the middle there. So Ted, can you talk about how you first met Patrice and the evolution of this project?
Sure. So I was lucky enough to meet Patrice about 20 years ago through her niece, who's a brilliant singer-songwriter named Kimia Dawson, who is also here today.
Yeah.
And I made a music video for Kimia just out of college, and we became friends, and she would be in town a few times a year playing shows, and Patrice would always come to the shows, so we would hang out. And we realized we didn't live that far from each other, so we just kept in touch over the years. And then in 2019 or so, Emily, who's on our producing team, created a series for Netflix called Warren Stories. And we got Patrice into one of the episodes, just a very small part. And we got to notice that she was very comfortable on camera and had a great time. And also just everybody else fell in love with her. It was obvious. There was more to be done with Patrice. And I think from the first time we met, I always had in the back of my mind, I want to do something with her. I don't know what it will be. I don't know what it is. And then, we were talking about maybe there's something else we should do together. Maybe there's something else. And around that time, Patrice and Gary decided they wanted to get married. And so then, of course, that became the direction that we ultimately ended up following.
So Ted, can you introduce everyone else on stage? Some of the people on stage are going to be recognizable, and some aren't. So present to us who's here.
Happy to. So starting on my right is Jim Lebrecht, one of our EPs. The co-director of Trip Camp. Phenomenal, incredible fun. And also the lead sound designer and mixer for the film.
Yeah.
And to my left is Kyla Harris, who's one of our producers. Inbo Shim, another producer.
Yeah.
Emily Spivak, producer.
Oh, yeah.
Then we have Milani Mines, who played Patrice's mom, Lee Jeter, who was phenomenal. Her first professional acting job, I will say, and she just killed it. And next to her is Landon Boyer, who played young Gary. Also phenomenal. And she needs no introduction, but sitting at the end is Elizabeth Dicker, who...
So maybe I could pass the microphone to Kyla, and Kyla, I'd love to hear from you. What drew you to this project?
So I, like any other disabled person, thinks that a documentary should be made about them. And I was, my partner and I were looking at moving in together, and realized that wasn't a possibility because then I would lose my benefits. And I was still committed to that idea, and I work for this wonderful organization called Forward Doc, many of whom are here, and Jim is at the chair of Forward Doc, and Ted and Invo and Emily came into our Zoom room, and when I, based on what I'd read, I was kind of like, oh yeah, another documentary. And then I saw the first image of Patrice, and it's the image when she is wearing the purple shirt when she introduces herself in the film. And I said, I need to be involved. With whatever this is, I need to be involved. And here I am. Very involved.
Jim, your film Crip Camp, I think, really opened doors and opened eyes for audiences, and I wonder if you can kind of put this in perspective of a larger media movement that's happening around representing people with disabilities.
Thank you. I was just reflecting when we finished our photo, our step and repeat. We have to find a better word for that, but I got a little teary because I realized this was a big moment. and that maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you wouldn't have a film like this in many festivals, and our community would not be recognized as filmmakers, as artists, as people who really bring something unique and I don't like using that word special, but thinking about us in that way. So, so I'm really, really thrilled. I think it's the hard work of a lot of people who have said we need to make film festivals accessible, we need to make applications accessible to people so that their films could be made.
I'm going to have the microphone go down to Elizabeth at the end. I mean, backstage, Elizabeth and I were talking. She said, "Are you going to ask the questions?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Make sure you ask deep ones, not superficial ones." So I feel a little intimidated right now. But Elizabeth, what do you want audiences to take away from this film?
I don't know how to use a mic. Is this working?
You got it.
Okay. I'm not used to any of this. So as much as Jim says, like, we want this for the disabled community, I also want people who do not have disabilities to see this. And I think I said to someone I like them to feel uncomfortable, but then that sounds like a bad word. But I like them to feel uncomfortable, because if they're uncomfortable, then they might want to take action and actually do something about it. I think when I found out I'd be a part of this, and this was like a long process, and we didn't know what it would turn into in the beginning. I said, like, I only want to be part of something if it shows everything, like every aspect, so disabled people are not these one-dimensional characters. So I want you to watch this and feel something and do something. And that's why we're going to have an impact campaign, because that's important. It shouldn't stop here. Like, this is great, we did it. It shouldn't stop here. That's what
I know we'd love to take some questions from the audience. Right there in the middle, first hand. Great question. And so she's asking, if anyone didn't hear it, where are we at in the process of this legislation? We could take the microphone here.
Okay, so the bill that you hear about in the film is still kind of languishing. It still hasn't really found enough support. Basically, what we're told by lawmakers is that, you know, the two biggest impediments to passing the bill are, one, just public interest. You know, a lot of the lawmakers, it's not necessarily that they have a problem with it, but it's just not a priority because people are not beating down their doors over this issue, and they are beating down their doors and spending lots of lobbying dollars on other issues, and they just have their attention. So that's one big part of it. The other part is that, you know, there are some lawmakers who, you know, it's also been told to us, there are some lawmakers who are worried about supporting the bill, not necessarily on the merits of ending the marriage penalty, but just for the idea that there would be an attack against them that would say they voted to drain Social Security faster than it would have been, something out of context. And so again, it's another reason why more urgency and more demands from the public will create the political cover for even those people to join on. And then also to give you the full rounded picture, so we really kind of focus on one bill in the film, but technically speaking, the disability law and the benefit system is so unbelievably complicated that technically there's 3 other bills in addition to the one that we talk about that would all actually need to pass to really and truly end the marriage penalty. And so if you follow our impact campaign, we're going to be working, we're going to be talking a lot about what the state of affairs are, and yeah, you can learn more on the patricethemovie.com website.
That this is also happening all around the world. There are so many countries around the world that where disabled people are still penalized for being married, and Canada is one of them. So yeah, think about this country as well.
Okay, lots of hands.
I would love to add just one
Go
more point here.
ahead, Jim.
When we think about marriage equality, and first off, if this film isn't enough for you to contact whatever political or legislator you have, think about this also. What we learned in the fight for marriage equality in the gay and lesbian community, LGBT community, part of that was, I can't see my partner in the hospital if I'm not married. So I want these two people to be able to make decisions for each other based on their love and their understanding, and not have a doctor
do it for them.
You know, one of the maddening things about looking into the disability benefit system is just how it was constructed. I mean, people who work in the system day in, day out, lawyers who study this stuff, even they would struggle to give us answers on how the system is set up and how it works, because it is so unbelievably complicated. The things that people would say over and over again is that if you developed a system from scratch, you would never ever set it up this way. But we're dealing with something that was set up in piecemeal over like 100 years. That was, you know, this little section was happening here, this happened here, and they're not talking to each other. And so we're now kind of painted into a corner with this system that really does not work. And so fixing it becomes that much more complicated. That's the bummer answer.
Can I add something to that kid right there? This is what I tell all the kids. You guys got to grow up and stay in school, run for office, so we can fire all those people running things, because the kids know it's not right, and it's not hard. They try to make it hard, and then this way the kids will change things and everybody will have what they need and it won't be hard. One of the scenes that stands out to me was when I got my first apartment, and that was really a happy time because when I was with my mom, I had to be in the house before dark, which meant if it got dark outside before 5 o'clock, I had to be in the house at 4:55 if I didn't want to be grounded for the next 2 weeks. I could eat whatever I wanted. And I stayed out until 4:30 in the morning because I knew I had no curfew and I loved it. But the other things that really stood out was getting to act out my life as a school play and having the kids be adults and me playing myself and having to go back to places that were really painful for me.
And since you mentioned the scenes where you're playing yourself with the other actors, I want to give credit again to Milani and Landon, who, if they're agents in Toronto, sign these kids up because they killed it. You're the first audience in the world to see Patrice the movie. It does have another screening here at the festival, so please tell your friends.